welcome back to the channel. And if it's your first time, thanks for watching. So what are we going to do today? Well, if we think back to what we did last week, we had a look at Copilot agents and we had a look at Agent 365. So similar topic today. We're going to look at agents again. We are going to look at data security around those agents. So we're going to have I've already built an agent. With that agent, we're going to have that agent have a look at some data that we have within the organization. So credit card data. We're going to see that the agent has access to that data, and then we can look at some of the security controls we can have around that. It's important to note that you need more than just labeling. You need those DLP policies. So we'll have a look at DLP policies. We'll have a look at DLP policies not only for Copilot, but also other generative AI applications. And then we can see what we can do in order to protect that data. So first instance, we'll have the DLP policies turned off, and we'll see that that data can be accessed by the agents. And then later on, we'll turn on the DLP policies, and we'll see that we can block not only the agents, but also other generative AI from accessing the data. Why is this important? Well, as everybody knows, generative AI is increasing. Number of agents that people are deploying is increasing massively, and it's all around securing your data, making sure that not only can the agents not access sensitive data, but also other generative AI applications. So quite a bit to get through today. Hopefully you'll find this useful, and let's jump into the portal. Okay, let's have a quick look at the agent we've created. So we can see we have a customer account agent. Let us click on one of the prompts before we go into the configuration. So customer billing, so we're looking for billing information for Brightwater dental practice. Let's see what we're able to see. There we go. We can see all the details. So we can see credit card, we can see credit card number, expiry date, IBAN details, etc. So a lot of sensitive data, which ideally we don't want the agents to have access to. So let us go back and have a quick look at what we've configured in the agent. So we can see the name, description, instructions, and we can see the SharePoint site that has been pointed to. So let's have a quick look at that SharePoint site. Have a look at the document and let's see what we have. So in the document, we can see, we scroll to the bottom, we'll be able to see all the credit card details. These are all fake details, but we can see all of them and addresses, etc. in the document. So we can also see that the document has got sensitive labels enabled. So we can see we do have credit card sensitive label enabled, and we can see it there. So what can we do to stop Copilot from processing those documents? Well, we need to create a DLP policy. So let's jump into Purview and see what we can do. Okay, so we are in Purview. We are in data loss prevention and in policies. You might see a couple of suggested policies or some policies in the top. It's important to understand what these policies do. So the first one, safeguard sensitive data. If you read the policy, it says turn on to restrict Copilot from processing sensitive prompts. So this policy will restrict the prompts. It won't restrict the data itself. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and created a Copilot processing for confidential customer data policy, and let us edit that and see what we have. So given it a name, And what we're doing is we are going to locations. We are only selecting Microsoft 365 Copilot and Copilot Chat. And then in here, you can create a rule. My rule, I've created content contains sensitive labels. And as you can imagine, I have gone down, given it a group name, and I have added credit card sensitive labels. So if you have other labels within the organization, you can add those in as well. Gone further down, and I have ticked restrict Copilot from processing content, accessing knowledge source, and I've just put on send an alert to admins. We can make sure that's on. We'll now turn that policy on. There we go. We'll let that process. Click done. We now just have to wait a few minutes for that policy to sync through. Worth noting, if this is a brand new policy, it might take quite a few hours to sync through, but hopefully this will sync through pretty quickly. So I'll give it a few minutes and then we'll come back to the video. Okay, so there we go. We've given that a few minutes to propagate. Let's run the same command. Let's see if we can find the bank details for Brightwater Dental. So and there we have it. So as we can see with Purview, it's important to, at least with AI agents, it's important to make sure that the documents are marked sensitive markings, and also you do have the correct DLP policy in place. Having that will protect your data against exfiltration with Copilot and its relevant agents. But what about generative AI in general? Let's have a look at that next. Okay, so we've seen how we can use Purview, sensitive labels, and DLP policies to restrict Copilot interactions. But what about interactions with other generative AI applications such as Gemini, ChatGPT, Grok, etc.? Well, very similar. You can create the DLP policies through Purview. We have one I set up earlier, so we'll have a look at some of the settings in there. There is a slight difference which we'll come on to, and that's on 2 locations. So give your DLP policy a name, admin units, and under locations we now specify devices. We don't have the ability to specify all the different generative AI applications, so we do specify devices. In the DLP rules, we can create a rule. We can see I've put a name in there, and again I've just gone into the conditions and put credit card sensitive labels. Under actions, this is where you set up what you want the policies to be. So I have put audit restrict activities on devices, and then uploading restricted cloud service domains or accessed from unallowed browsers, and I've also put paste to supported browsers. So I do have them with block and override at the moment. And then for file activities, I have a few of them currently in block. So again, we will save that. We'll turn the policy on. It is currently on. And then we will just press done at the end. Once that's complete, we'll have a look at some of the files that I've created, and we'll try and upload those files. So we'll press done on that. Okay, so next we'll see there is a couple of files that I've created. So the first one will open. Is this one. So Albizia customer account process general label. So that's got a general label, so that should not be blocked from being processed. And then I have another document. So that's just V5, and again, that's been labeled, so that should be blocked. Okay, so let's close those two down, bring the screen across, and we'll have a look at the files. So first one, I'll chuck a file in there. So this file is a general label, so it should be reviewed. The application should be able to see it. So let's just put in, please review the document and summarize. There we go. We can see it does have access to the document. We'll stop it there. And then let's try and upload the V5 document. And we can see an unknown error comes up straight away. So try it again, put it in. Please summarize. Again, it won't do it. Let's try that in Google. So in Gemini, we'll put the V5 document first, so that's the protected one. We'll say, please summarize. And let's see what Gemini can do. Yep, can't access or open the file. Again, we'll put the one with the general label in. And we'll say the same. There we go. So we can see that it is possible to protect and restrict sensitive data within not only Copilot, but also generative AI applications in general. Important notes. Yes, you do need to classify the documents. You do need to label the documents. Now, labeling the documents can either be manually. Obviously, that won't look at historic documents. So you can also do automatic labeling. So identifying what's sensitive to you, you can then implement automatic labeling. And then finally, creating those DLP policies to protect the documents. And that's a wrap. So hopefully you have found some of that useful. As mentioned, we're going to be doing quite a bit of generative AI, Copilot Studio, Copilot Agents, Agent 365 videos in the near future. So if you have found it useful, please like, please subscribe. Much appreciated. Thank you. And that's a wrap. So let's see, what do we cover? We can block sensitive data from Copilot, Copilot agents, and generative AI in general. Important takeaways from there is you do need to have sensitive labels on your documents. So as a start, creating those sensitive labels, getting users to mark sensitive labels, but also using automatic labeling for sensitive data that you have already identified. What else? A few other things. You do need Purview extension installed on your browsers. So that's for the generative AI applications. And you do need the devices to be onboarded to Purview. So hopefully you found that useful. And as mentioned, we will be covering more Copilot agents, Agent 365, and general Microsoft security topics in future. So hope to see you next time.